Welcome. Ken Kingstad back at you, talking about Customer Development Centers, your CDC. Let's face it, many dealerships today have either tried a CDC or are thinking about putting a CDC in today. And oftentimes you may have heard, 75% of these programs end up failing. And you're right, 75% end up failing. Why do they fail though? That's the thing I want to talk about today. One of the things I find, I've been doing this for 20 years, guys, 20 years, going in dealerships and helping them put established programs and processes in place. I've dealt with a lot of dealerships in the past who've tried it and said, I'm not doing it again. Let's face it, the alternative is having your people on the floor make those calls, and that's a possibility as well. But we found that if you can get some specific people and you train them effectively to get on the phone, your phone people, they can be trained to be much more effective than any sales rep on the floor. The key is this: we want to get our people on the floor in front of customers all day long. Doesn't that make sense? If we can keep them in front of a customer all day long, guess what? You're going to sell more cars. The reason that most CDCs end up going south and not working is because there wasn't really a lot of thought gone into developing the process or the culture. And one of the things you got to really understand is the process and the culture isn't just coming from the BDM or the CDC manager. It's got to come from the top. And if it's in the middle management as well, we all got to come together in terms of what's the culture going to be. And if our unsold customers aren't buying, obviously they're going home, and for whatever reason, the money, the credit, or whatever the reason may be, we want to call them back with intelligent dialogue. We want to create some flexibility within those customers, and we want to invite them back in under confirmed appointments by our managers. So I'm going to cover a lot of points that are going to help you take your CDC to the next level. First of all, let's start with our manager. What's the manager's role? Obviously managing the people, obviously hiring the right people, training the right people. Where are you getting those skills? Where's that person coming from? Have they gone through some sort of train-the-trainer type process to get their education? Or are we hiring someone from maybe a call center background? The bottom line and most important thing is this: you want to find somebody who's got a lot of call center background. Not necessarily the best salesperson in the world, because there are two different skill sets really between sales and phone sales. And we want to talk about what's going to make our CDC maximize to help our front end sell more cars. Let's face it, I made a comment before, 75% of all CDCs end up failing. And why? Again, poor process. Let's talk about what the right process is. For unsold traffic, for e-leads that are coming in, the leads that we're buying month in and month out, as well as all of our incoming phone calls, our reference calls. Is there a standard that we have in place for our reps? Or I oftentimes go into a dealership and I'll find, people making 25 or 30 phone calls and actually setting somewhere between 6 to 8, maybe 10. It's a great job, 10. What is the right standard? Let's face it, if I got 2 or 3 people making phone calls in my CDC for me, what's the expectation? What should we be able to pull from those people day in and day out? That's a tremendous amount of horsepower. Let's face it, if I got one rep and they're working 8 hours, they need to be making a minimum of 100 dials a day. Period. End of story. It can be done. I've seen it done over and over and over. I've heard a lot of excuses on why it can't be done, but I've seen it done over and over and over. And again, that expectation has to be there. That's part of what the business development manager or the CDC manager's role is to make sure that the push behind the people is there day in and day out. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for the CDC manager? I don't think so. It's a daily routine to get these people to come to work to maximize their time. I've always said this: come to work to work. Hear that? Come to work to do just that. Work. Make those 100 dials a day. If you do that, what can you expect? Well, let's face it. If we got our multiple numbers, 2, maybe 3 numbers per person that we're calling, we should be able to get at least 30% of those set to an appointment, or actually contacted, in other words. So if I'm making 100 dials a day, I should speak to a minimum of, say, 30 to 40 people. And if I'm doing that, I should be able to set a minimum of 10 to 15 appointments. Again, that's where you got to start. And if that's the job you're doing right now, in my book, that's being a C student. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely there's room for improvement. There's B and there's still an A student out there. But let's do a crawl, walk, run approach to our process. So the manager's role is to make sure that our people are coming to work day in and day out and making those dials. Now, making the dials intelligently is the next thing we want to talk about. Making calls unto themselves is great. It's better than not making the calls. But we want to make the calls intelligently. And I would tell you this, find a company that's got a proven track record to help you. What I mean is this, I'm about to tell you, I've got 20 years doing this, and I haven't had a BDC or CC fail for me, quite frankly, in the past 10 years. Now, the first 10 years, yeah, I had some issues there, resolving and finding. But find a company, whether it be us or someone else, find a company that has got a proven track record to take you the distance. Not just get you out of the gate, but take you the distance. Okay? So you've got call guides and call principles that are tried and true. I don't like scripts. I like call guides. There's a difference there. Getting people to understand key concepts versus paragraphs and make it sound eloquent yet natural is pretty tough to do. So I believe that training for the BD manager is very, very important. We train consistently day in and day out. Start the day every day by doing 20 to 30 minutes of sharpening the saw. That's very, very important. You know, if we come to work every day, we're making these guys go through some training, we're sharpening the saw, we put them on the phone, and we measure. If you can't measure, you can't grow. Does that make sense? So again, we expect 100 dials a day, 30 at least conversations, and 15, we'll say, appointments day in and day out. If we can do that, we're on our way. But the key is this, once that's done, what happens next? As I said before, it's very, very important that our managers are doing all that they can to maximize what's been done by our reps. In other words, our reps are making all these phone calls, 100 dials minimum. They're actually talking to, say, 30 people, and they're setting their 15 appointments minimum expectation every single day. Now, before that phone call ends, very important, this is very, very important, listen to this. The manager needs to confirm the appointment. Now that may sound a little different, but before they hang the phone up, let's face it, if we're only getting a hold of 30% right now of all of our dials, don't take the chance to call and confirm tomorrow if it's a tomorrow appointment. Now, I'm not saying that we can't call tomorrow and still do that, but before they hang the phone up, as the manager, it's very important that you tighten it up. Oftentimes an objection may surface at this point in time, and it's your job to kind of make sure that the customer sincerely believes that what the rep said is genuine. Does that make sense? Very, very important that we do that. So again, managers, before you take that call, make sure, they're going to do a quick TO. So as soon as the appointment's been set, instruct your people to raise their hand. Quickly, go over there and do a TO. The TO is a soft TO. Hi, this is Ken. Hey, I was just going through my notes here, talking to Jackie, I guess. You're coming in tomorrow at 2:45. Great. You know what? You're going to love the experience here. We're going to make sure your experience is a level 10. Perfect. Now, at this point in time, they're going to come back and give you possibly an objection. Well, you know what? I was calling to make sure that it's a long drive. Do I have to drive that far? Whatever the objection may be, realize it's your job now to tighten and firm that appointment up. We want our appointments to be at least minimally at 50%. Bottom line. We understand that's very possible. So we got to do it. Again, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I haven't had a bad CDC or BDC in the past 10 years. Not one failure. So again, the system and the process is very, very important. And now finally, how does that dealership receive that appointment? And what's the expectation for the managers at the dealership? How do we hand that baton off? Oftentimes we find that the baton gets dropped between the CDC and the BDC. We're going to cover that next time. So the most important thing in here is simply this. The amount of horsepower in the CDC is phenomenal. Your reps do a ton of heavy lifting. Their job is to come to work every day, and sharpen the saw for you, the manager. Then they're going to go to work. When they go to work, what they're going to do is they're going to get on the phone and make their dials. A minimum of 100 dials per day, per rep. Hopefully, talking to at least 30 customers and setting a minimum of 15 appointments. By the way, what happens if they don't do it? What do you think should happen? Either it's a knowing problem or they're lazy. It's one of the two. Our goal here is to help them understand exactly what their roles are, how to make the calls, how to use the call principles so they can be comfortable making these dials. And then, when the appointment's been scheduled, raise their hand, give it to you, the manager, make the confirmation call, and then pass it on to the dealership. Very, very simple. But the key is this. If we can get this CDC running seamlessly, like I'm talking about here, your results are going to go up dramatically. I'm talking about 20% on the low side, as high as, say, 30% over the next 9 months. But again, I'm giving you a quick Reader's Digest, if you will, version of what needs to be happening. If you need other questions, you got questions or things in your mind, give us a call. We'd love to help any way we can. The most important thing is get down to it, make it happen, and sell some cars. Till next time, take care.